Hello, welcome to the Squarebase Show with your beautiful host, Val Heffelfinger, and me, Rob. And today, we're going to be talking about the upcoming massive Canadian Old World event, the Squarebase Toronto.
Squarebase Open Toronto. No. There we go. Yes. You know, it was close.
Could be either of those two, right? Could be either of those two.
My problem is my my bummer sound effect. I put top left, which I think, if depending, I guess my mood would make sense to have the happy one top left. I feel like that's your go-to like A position button, and top right bummer sound. I think that's why I always mix it up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It does. So for people who just tuned in, people who are watching this video, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the lore video, which may or may not have gone up yet. I don't know.
Whoopsie, has not gone up, but that's all right. We'll get her out there. We'll bunt it out.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I've been bedridden for like 5 days. So I apologize about not getting some stuff out there to the Squarebase community, but loads of love to you. But very excitingly, tomorrow I'll be traveling to Canada to see this lovely man to my left. Although by the time you're watching this, I may have already been and come back. Depends on how we get with the uploads.
Depends on that thumbnail.
Depends on that. But we'll be uploading. There will be an event report from that coming from me. So that's my plan for the weekend. So I'm going to be filming, talking to people,
Nice.
really showcasing what an old world event looks like. Because especially for, 50, we're up to 50 players. Up to 50 players. Use the positives. You got this. Not down from 60. Up. We've got up
You're
to
right.
50.
Actually, I had to check my tournament organizer privilege because I was doing that. I was like, oh, we're down to only 51. And I was like, hold on a tick. That's a stupendous amount of people.
For old world, that's huge.
It's very big. We're definitely one of the. I was very confused. We're definitely one of the biggest. Not right in there. Like the 50 player cap is somewhere around the glass ceiling of Old World right now, which is fine. Like that is a very large event.
For year one of a game system, that's big.
Yeah, dude. When I first started playing 40K and like competitive events were just sort of starting out, like 100-player events were unicorns, yeah. And then there were, and a large event was, around 32 players, like right around 32, 40 players.
Yeah.
That's why like a major, like as defined by the ITC back in the day, was 54 and up. So like we're damn close to that, which is wild.
Yeah,
so I'm quite pleased.
It's super important numbers. Like I'm very excited to be there, and I'm sure many people watching this video, watching the chat, or watching this in the comments have experiences of their events and events that they're attending. And I know that some events have got like a little local grassroots scene. There's an event in Nottingham this weekend with 12 people, not at the arena. Another organizer, Mark, is holding that. He's the biggest. He runs probably the biggest, second biggest Age of Sigmar event in the UK called War in the Heartlands, and now there's an old world contingent as well. So him and his cohort Liam, who's just in the chat and resubscribed, thanks Liam, and Johnny Thunder as well. Loads of love. They run in an old world event, so they're borrowing my terrain cards, the whole thing. I'm a mobile studio.
You're supporting a rival event.
It's not
with
rival.
Terrain.
All boats float in steady waters. I don't know if that's the phrase. Lifting them up.
It's like they always said. All boats float in steady waters.
They go up. Awesome.
Can someone for the Twitter please put together an inspirational quote meme of Rob's.
The major issue is that Mark and Liam are running it. So Liam, I trust to get the rules right. Mark, I don't trust to get the rules right at all. So I think that's going to be the major problem, to be honest.
That's why I subcontracted our head judge at SBO Toronto to Shane, aka Oz in the Discord, who will know the rules. So we have at least one person who will know the rules.
Good.
You got to get yourself your own Shane. You got to find yourself a Shane.
Oh, I've got a Shane.
Very helpful.
I've got a Shane. I've got a Rebecca. I got
Oh,
Rebecca.
of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
She the last Old World event that I played at here at the TSN Arena, I played the whole weekend. I played against her. She's like, "You're doing that wrong," and I was like, "Oh, I apologize." Like, and then she yellow carded me at my own event, right?
Hey man, that's how you know she cares.
I know. I respect. If she hadn't done that, like, I need that. So it was good. Because I was trying to world conquer champion this bad boy, but I didn't get through. Okay, so we're gonna this video today is just gonna be a short, quick little chat with Val about the upcoming event, and then hopefully this will be a nice little like precursor to the Old World event video, which I'll make after the event has occurred, and then we'll do a chat show debrief next week as well. So you'll be getting a kind of like a before and after. Of everything. So I'm just going to ask you a few quick questions. Setting up the event, I know we've been hearing about it for a few months. Can you just give us a quick TLDR, like location, terrain, how it was getting all that together, and then what the little community looks like?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I think a lot of people run into when running an event is obviously event space. It's always going to be the biggest deal, especially in a place like Toronto. I think there haven't been a lot of events like in Toronto itself. I think you see this too in the UK and places in the United States, where in the big city, it's actually hard to like do stuff because, space is always at a premium. It always costs a lot. But there are folks who started organizing 40K GTs primarily, and it was, driven by a guy named Keith, who just wanted a GT in Toronto. And that's usually where these things come from. And so he started taking the lead on and the risk on renting out spaces. They did a lot of events at they started doing their events at what's called the Royal Canadian Legion, which is where Canadian veterans hang out and drink cheap beer.
Perfect.
And they often have, since they've had these events, they have big halls and they've existed for a long time. So they were doing that. They got kicked out of that spot, and he went and found another place, which is basically a hard loft, like a sort of like an industrial live work sort of building that's been converted from an old warehouse. My grandmother, in fact, used to work at a sweatshop across the street from it. Nice.
Sweater shop or sweat?
Sweatshop. She was a seamstress.
Tell you what. Looking at the list from this weekend, it feels like another sweatshop's just set up.
Hey, super sweaty. But anyway, so I think it's a really, really cool. Really cool venue. It's got like really high ceilings, sort of like a an industrial feel, but it's also been it has bathrooms and things. Because we're part of a wider event, there's we are almost the same size as 40K.
Whoa.
I think they got 60 players. We're currently trending towards 51. And then there's 13 or 14 Horus Heresy players just clinging to relevance in the corner. It's fantastic. So as a result, we've got lots of space, which is going to be great. So very excited. So Keith took the lead, and I'm a subcontractor off of his big bite of an event space. So then off to the races, we sold a bunch of tickets.
I'm very excited about that. Very excited about that. Okay, it's going to be really cool. You've got some superstars. I know for a fact, because I've been part of this, you've stuck a bunch of the attendees. I thought maybe we could use this quick opportunity to talk about setting up events. What I do when I have an event is I send out the pack probably like 3 days before. Should be about 2 months, but very late.
We had a solid month. We did have a solid month of a pack being out, which was I wanted 6 weeks, but we got a month.
That's good. That's good. And then I always throw everyone into a little WhatsApp group so they can all start to get to know each other and chat. And I see you've done that, and that's been super healthy, right? Like loads of lovely people talking about stuff.
Yeah, that was I fully stole that move from you. And also, as we got to the list deadline, I was starting to get a little nervous because feel like you send out these big emails, with information and stuff to people, and it's like it's shouting into the void. Like a lot of people I came to find out, were definitely reading the emails, and then they were nodding and following the instructions. This is not Warhammer people, at least old world Warhammer people, not like any other group of people I've ever dealt with. This happened with me at the original inaugural square-based GT at the Fuck Bunker in Welland last year, where where I was sending these
Shout out to Welland,
emails.
Ontario. Shout out.
Shout out. Where I was sending these emails and like nothing was coming back. I was like, oh shit, like no one's gonna come, like everyone's bailing. And then list deadline came. Every single person had their list in on time. Like it was like what the hell? Like people read it and followed the instructions. Incredible. So a rare breed, I'd say. This has not happened in my fantasy football leagues. But yeah, so we put everyone into that WhatsApp group, which is I'm still part of the TSN WhatsApp group, which is just a constant stream of consciousness about Old World and hobby updates and stuff. So maybe the SBOTO 2024 WhatsApp group will also live on in infamy after this, which will be great because now you have like a little Old World community of people chatting with one another.
I think. Can I just say one of the things that I think events do, and I think that people don't take in context enough, is it makes you feel the thing that you're passionate about is integrated with a bunch of other people, and events have always been the playground for that. But with the kind of destruction of all social media, you know, Facebook is useless and trash. Twitter is useless and trash. And Instagram, you can't really like generate communities around like Instagram. Really, like there's no back and forth. There's no like it's not it's not like the people's town hall, right? And obviously there's Discord groups, and we have a really amazing Discord community for the old world. And I'm super proud of that. Scared, but proud. And then, you know, like I think one of these other things is getting a bunch of those people together and say, look, you know, you are a community. And I think that's ended up working really well here in the UK because I know that like a bunch of the guys, they come to my events a lot, which is super nice, and I love that. But they'll also then just go to like a bunch of them went to the LGT, and they're all messaging each other and like, hey, I'll see you there, and talking. And, you know, it's the foundation of community building. And I think that's super important. It's basically what we talk about a lot on the show, right? It's super, super valuable. So that's, you know, kudos to you for putting that together, which is cool. Almost
did it. My ADHD paralysis almost made it not happen. And then I thought, nah, I'm just going to create a link and I'm going to send it out. And I did it. And that was and the only reason I did it was because of what I saw. Well, with the with yours, which is awesome, and and you're right. Like, I mean, this thing is pulling people from a fair distance, but it's still regional. Like, you'd be our furthest afield player this year, or personality. But we got folks driving up from as far as Pennsylvania, which would probably be in that 6-hour range.
Shout out to all my Bigfoot followers in Pennsylvania. Let's go! Right,
we got some folks coming in from Montreal, I think down in Michigan as well. Shout out Nergal Matt. He really wanted to come, but he can't. He has conflict. He was actually legitimately going to show up on Friday for an hour or two just so he could say hi to you, Rob. And I said,
I would have shit.
It's like a 5-hour drive to do that for him, maybe even 6. And I was like, please don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Big deal. Long time chat. I know, Matt. It's just one of the nice things about meeting people in your community, right? Like, it's so good.
Yes. So anyway, so like we have lots of folks coming in, but it's sort of in that catchment area, like a GT, like a 2-day weekend event. And this is another good thing upside about a big GTs is that especially North America, will draw anyone within what we would call driving distance, what your people would call fucking insane. No way. About 6 to 8 hours is generally speaking from where you are in North America, what people are willing to do to go to a tournament sometimes. So pretty cool to see that happening. And yeah, I'm just very, 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 I don't know, grateful that this is going to go down.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. One of the things that's quite surprising, because I think, like, you know, ultimately for us as old world analysts, but also, you know, old world players, organizers, one of the things that we're all trying to keep on top of is what the, like, quote unquote meta is. I still think that there really isn't one in the old world. I know other people would disagree, but that's where I'm at right now. And then you've got some pretty crazy numbers from which armies are playing at your event, right? Because obviously we're off the back of the old, like, you know, quadruple LGT Bretonia gate.
Yeah.
But
which
now
we'll probably see again, quite frankly, but yes.
Okay, but we've got this whole new tell me what's happening with the meta in Toronto, because it's wild shit.
Do you have that little graphic I sent you?
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to just say it.
Okay. Well, I don't have a computer to memory here. Let me pull it up on my WhatsApp.
Okay, you got this.
So yeah, so we have, like I said, this is about 50 people. Eric from Eric's Hobby Workshop was busy working on the hill, so he didn't get his list in. I assume he's playing Bretonia as well.
Oh my God, Eric's
But
there. That's great.
oh yeah, Eric's coming. He made a bunch of hills for me, which he might actually make a how-to video out of, which is great. And great channel, by the way, if you like Warhammer and building terrain for Warhammer and like 7-foot tall
Or
titans and stuff.
or full tilt, whatever.
Or full tilt. Yes, no, he's a lovely man. And again, through the power of Warhammer friendship, I got to know him. So, Rob, what do you think right now, off the top of your head? What would the two most popular factions be, comprising probably 40% of the meta? Do you reckon?
It's got to be
Top two.
Bretonia or Tomb Kings, right? They came out, they were super popular on release. You know, like the models are easily available. Whoa!
Wrong. And I meant to do this. No, fucking hell. No, I meant to say
Welcome to the Phoenix Club. Okay,
so yeah, it is actually the number one faction at Square-based Open Toronto, folks. Looking at High Elf Realms. The High Elves have 10 players in a 10. Not just number one with a bullet. Right behind them, Warriors of Chaos.
Makes sense.
So this is what this says to me is that we got ourselves a dragon heavy meta. This is what I would suspect. Everyone outside of that, you have Kingdom of Bretonia and Exiles. They're at 6.
Oh, I guess Bretonia is 6, right? But split between
yeah.
two different army styles. All right, that's good.
And then after that, you got your Tomb Kings at 3, but everyone else is sort of 3 or 2. And then actually, there's 10 Warriors of Chaos because one of them is the Wolves of the Sea.
Oh yeah, there's 6 Tomb Kings, right? Together.
Yeah, 6 Tomb Kings. No, 5 Tomb Kings. Is there a third tomb?
2, 1, and 3. 6 in total.
You're right, 6. So yeah, 6 Bretonia, 6 Tomb Kings, 10 Warriors of Chaos, 10 High Elves. And then we've got representation from Empire, 2 players, Chaos Dwarfs, 2 players. Our friend the Lizardmen, he had actually a fun list that I enjoyed. We've got only 2 dwarf players, which surprised me. One of which is actually a fun gyrocopter list, which is really cool. In vampire counts, we have 1 official player, and then we got the ringer list, which is us, also playing vampire counts. And then we got ogre kingdoms with 1. We have demons with 1. Beastmen rolling up with 3. So that would be sort of your side. But even like orcs and goblins only sitting at 1.
Yeah, what do you think?
Sorry, 2. We got 2 with orcs and goblins.
What do you think the situation is with orcs and goblins? Because, you know, strong army, they had a big showing at the start. Are people just pivoting to something like that they're more interested in? Or like, you know, like, I think sometimes looking at this event stuff is a little bit janky because it's probably just like 10 high elf dudes who never gave up in Canada. They're like, I'm never giving up. Unless like
oh yeah.
Yeah, like but yeah, it's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, and I think orc and goblins, I don't know, we've seen both ways with them. Like I think we've seen a few events where they've been quite popular. Their models are very popular. Like Caleb Edwards, one of my very good friends, practiced against him last night. As a matter of fact, he's running Bretonian Exiles, a very, very stingy list. It's all like it's all converted from squigs, so they're the Squigtonians.
Mm-hmm.
So like definitely there'll be a lot of orc and goblin models out there. But I think right now people are definitely just feeling the vibe that they feel. Ontario, like the province of which I live, feels like a very chaos. I feel like this was true in 40K too. Like the meta skewed hard chaos. I think we just have repressed evilness, and it comes out in our Warhammer playing.
That makes sense. Although this graph does show that you have repressed haughtiness and elitism.
This feels very, very Ontarian to me.
Does it?
The 2 sides of the coin, I'd say. So yeah, so I don't know. That breakdown doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me, we managed to get 2 Dark Elves players, folks. 2 Dark Elves players. They're here. They're there. The Druki?
Drukari?
No, that's 40K. Druchi?
Chuchi?
I think. Choo-choo? They're they're gonna be there. So who's missing? Gotta play that game.
Chaos
I don't know,
Dwarfs?
somebody.
No, they're there.
No,
That's
they're
great.
there.
Army I'm rooting
Oh.
for. That's Chaos Dwarf player. So that's pretty fun. So is there a local kind of savant, a gaming savant that we're going to look out for over the course of the weekend? Who do we think is going to be the big threat?
Well, we have my boy Christian, who is Moose Jaw, Moose something, Moose Knuckle in our Discord. He's very good. He's playing Beastmen. So we'll see how that goes. He often will have played vampire counts. He usually does pretty well. Caleb's bringing a hard list, but doesn't play a ton. I honestly can't really tell you who the real. I'm just naming my friends at this point. So I couldn't really tell you who's the clubhouse leader right now as far as who's in it to win it.
Well, that's why the UK's coming over, baby. Yeah, taking the trophies home.
With our sick vampire count lazy list, the laziest list.
I didn't write that, by the way. I need everyone to know, not me.
Well, it was inspired by the list that you were planning on running, which was just 3 dragons and 3 chaos dragons.
The true list.
So now you have 3 zombie dragons, basically.
I got called out, by the way. I don't know if you know this. I got called out on Facebook the other day, which is pretty fun. 2 different reasons. Number 1, I love the old world way more than Age of Sigmar, apparently. And I basically gave up on it. And I'm like, didn't I just run like 5 GTs and also travel to the US for it? But whatever.
And I'm pretty sure you made yourself sick crushing out content last Friday. But yes.
But the big news is that apparently I'm a hypocrite, which is very fun.
Go ahead.
Because I tell people that they shouldn't play Warriors of Chaos, like warriors in Warriors of Chaos, as in the unit, not the army. And then I run them myself. And I'm like, and I was like, okay, what I'm doing is I think when I make content is I'm giving you good advice on on models you should take and how to play them. And what I'm doing myself is not listening to myself. And I feel like everyone can, don't do that as you then do that, right?
Yes.
Is the most human experience.
Do as I say, not as I do, Rob. This is the idiom that matches the scenario.
Yeah.
That is a funny thing to call you out for. Maybe they think that you're trying to keep the Warriors of Chaos players down by like not letting them play warriors.
Trying to help them. That's what I'm trying to do.
As people will learn in the lore review that we did and will one day post, Warriors of Chaos hilariously absent from the Warriors of Chaos arcane journal.
So much so that you think that they're intentionally bad in rules wise. Anyway,
very funny. Also, Skaven not represented, by the way, Rob. Chat's pointing out because I didn't mention them. No Skaven.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. That's pretty rough. Not gonna lie, but they're not great. Let's be honest.
Yeah. If you want to run Skaven, you got to do stuff like what Ed was doing, which is just very, focus on a very narrow band of things in it. And then you're not really playing Skaven at that point. You're playing like bad wood elves. Oh, no wood elves. There you go. That's what's missing. Wood elves. There are literally no wood elf factions, which is wild.
I'm surprised by the no wood elves because after Thingy won the event here with wood elves, you would really think that that would have upticked their popularity. But I think maybe people just realized how fucking hard it is to play with that army.
I don't know if it said this. They're very. To me, like wood elves are they've always been like the 40K army of fantasy, and it's cool that they play so differently than everyone else. Like they're the only elf faction that really appeals to me. I guess high elves are cool, but like. I just think wood elves are just super awesome. They're they're forest ninjas, right? And but I think maybe that's part of also the turnoff of them is that they're sort of denial army that's going to shoot you from afar. They're frustrating to play against. Maybe they still have some stigma. They're also some of the rarest models to find because they got good in 8th edition really late in the existence of Warhammer Fantasy. I think they were bad until their army book came out. I might be speaking out of church, but I'm pretty sure that's true. And then they got really good right at the end. So it could be one of those things where there just aren't a lot of models in circulation. That being said, if you're Wood Elf curious, there are some fantastic STLs out there that actually the GW plastics are really, really nice. They got a lot of love sort of at the end of Fantasy. A lot of pretty iconic things like Wild Riders and things, and even just the Wood Elf Archer guys are beautiful to me. But there are some really gorgeous 3D prints that you can do that are Wood Elves. If you like Wood Elves and you're like, but I can't get the models, you can get some really nice stuff. Sorry, we got sidetracked there. Yeah, no, Wood Elves surprises me because they're just so good. And I think that speaks to the fact that the meta right now, and I think maybe you were hinting at this, the meta is what do you want, like, what do you like? What do you want to play kind of a thing. And that's why I think it changes up a lot. Depending on what the event is specifically.
Yeah, it's so dynamic, the game system. It's really good. It's in a really healthy place, my opinion. So I'm not surprised to see just like a wild to pick up, which is cool. So it's 5 rounds for the event?
5 rounds for my man Rob. We went to 5 rounds. Also, like, doing the schedule, I wanted to do 6 rounds because that's my try hard winner take all mentality is, and like, if you're under 64 players, 6 rounds will get you a winner, like an outright winner 100% of the time. So that's why I like doing 6 rounds for the larger events, because you do get an outright winner. But I think because of where we're at, like just sort of meta wise, game development wise, people getting into it still, there's going to be a lot of experienced players here, but not like experienced in the sense in the world of AOS and 40K. Like AOS and 40K experienced players are like, they've been grinding tournaments for almost a decade, sometimes, multiple times a quarter. The people who get lots and lots and lots of reps, and they do exist in Old World, but they're a smaller portion of the community, I would say. Most people are still in the, bring a list that they think is good mode, but they're not necessarily going to be like the stone cold hardened killers. And so having, I think, an event that focuses more on an overall than just best general, I think is probably a good thing. And also, therefore, we can take a little bit more time on each round. We can do 2-hour, 45-minute rounds and get out a little bit earlier, or have some time at the end of the day to just hang out and play games. So it just took a little bit of pressure off of the schedule to go to 5 games instead of 6, because you don't have to do 4 games on Saturday, which is great. And we're still starting earlier than Rob would like, but we're not starting at 8 o'clock, which would have maybe made Rob just go straight home.
I would have gone straight home. An event is meant to be a luxurious experience for the attendees. Like, I know people are going to laugh at me, but I think if you're traveling to like anywhere in the world, like even if you're just going to your local game store, you should be able to get yourself a hearty breakfast and do a chill out before you start that first game. Like, listen, I've called my venue the T Sports Arena, tabletop sports arena, but we're the 1970s English version of a sport where you can smoke a cigarette and drink a pint while you're on the football pitch. Okay, we've got a very different energy to some of the other jocks and sports bros that we know in the world, right? And it's an energy that we understand ourselves. We know that we want a lion, and that's okay.
I don't want to do this to you, Rob, but I think the early start time just has to do with, there's just a lot of dads who are, they're up already. They have no choice. Their kids have woken them up. So they, this is their Warhammer day, and they just want to get out and start rolling some dice. Can
I tell you one of the good things about doing it like this in the UK is that it means that you can drive to the event in the morning. And therefore, you don't need to stay the extra night in hotels. It's a good point, which I think is really nice. But that's what we want. We want snooker players. I agree with New Mail in the chat. Snooker players from the 70s. All right.
Snooker players. Excellent.
Snooker.
One of the all-time greatest moments ever on the Honest War Gamer.
So we got the big event coming, and you're looking forward to it. We'll be able to follow along at home. Can we follow the BCP link?
Yeah, I can share it in chat for sure. You can also check out lists there.
We'll leave it in the comments below on the video.
comments below. Actually, I haven't shared we have a list doc, so I'll share the list document so you can actually scroll through it. I'll put a PDF linked in the notes so folks can have a look and see what's going on. There's definitely some like tuned up. There's a handful of tuned up lists that are going to be interesting. And I know that the Beastmen are definitely trying hard. And the Tomb Kings and the Bretonians are trying hard. Outside of that, we'll see who rises to the top. But in any event, like I was saying, like, our best overall, or most best, very lovely plaques, by the way. We have some really nice and prizes to give out, which is wonderful. On the actual event, sort of organization front, a lot of the, I guess, what would have been money that was went into buying extra tables. So like this event has actually supported in a lot of ways future events. So like there's no profits. I'm probably going to come out a little bit behind on this, but like I did spend, like, as you know, I picked up a bunch of really nice buildings. I picked up a bunch of trees. We've got hills. So like between, I'll have going forward 10 solid tables, enough to do 20 tables. Andrew, who runs Capital City Bloodbath's Old World, he's got 20 solid tables. So sort of as a community right now, we've got 30 tables on the grow, and looking to continue to expand that so that we can do stuff like a team event maybe in the spring.
Yeah, you can. That's great. Right. Love that.
But yeah, if people are, I've never thought this way. So I think it's perfectly reasonable for TOs to just take their profits and keep them. But if folks are wondering, like, why isn't there more prize support? There's lovely prize support. Do not doubt. We're being supported by some really great game stores. We got some really nice plaques. We'll have some swag to give out. Surprise support will be there. But most of the so-called profits have been put back into terrain for the most part, and that will help us support future events. And I have to say, as far as like a bar, like I had to hit the easy button in a lot of ways to get the 10 tables put together. And by that, I mean, like I got some really cool stuff from Monster Scenery, which I want to plug because I think there is really, really good stuff for the price. It's pre-painted. They give you pre-painted forests. We have a difficult terrain patch. I think they're really, really, really excellent. Monster Scenery. And I borrowed some, but all that is to say that this is how you build up enough of a terrain capacity to be able to do events. And in the future, if someone else in Toronto, by the way, wants to run an event, you need some tables, just like Rob did in Nottingham. I'm happy to help out, much like Andrew's helping me by bringing stuff up down from Ottawa. And that's how we can sort of establish ourselves and have sort of stuff in the community so that we can do this more.
I think that's super. I think that's really important. I'm much happier that events are learning to walk before they run. The concept of being like, let's do a 200-person GT, and you're like, it sounds exciting, but 100 tables of good terrain, actually really hard to organize. 100 mats. That's a bunch of stuff that people don't really think about when you're organizing events. And like, not bemoaning it, but like Val says, it's expensive. I think year on year, it becomes like a more sensible prospect to like build up. But you picked up some beautiful terrain. You picked up a bunch of the Tabletop World stuff, which is stunning. You've had like an actual hobby legend in Eric's Hobby Workshop. Genuinely a hobby legend.
You'll be privileged. This man like spent not an insignificant amount of time talking to me about the correct slope, like degrees of slope to have for a hill, based on its footprint.
Yep.
Like this is stuff that genuinely like had him thinking for more than a day, because he has dreamt of making the perfect Warhammer Fantasy hill. So like, so that the guys don't fall off when you like are on part of it. So yes, definite privilege to have someone like him making hills for us,
which is yes. A vibe. Yeah, like I think that's great. Like I think we should all be super happy about that. And I think if you are running an event in your local community, like reinvest. If you can, obviously just take the money if you don't want to take the money. I think that's really also good as well. Your labor is valuable. But like I think that's one of the great things about the Old World community. We all see it go from strength to strength as TOs and different groups are going to be able to like build up their little player bases and stuff. And obviously moving towards our big international event that we plan on doing next year, or maybe year after, but maybe next year. So we'll see. So that should be super fun.
I also want to shout out too, using Rob's. We're using your terrain. What do you call it? The terrain picking system, TPS.
Yep, the TPS.
The TPS report. So essentially, each. Yeah. Let's actually talk. You mind if I talk about missions for a sec?
Sure.
Because I think there's a bit of a movement, I think, right now to start like engineering up some missions. I'm stubbornly still in the like let's keep it
worst decision.
Keep it. I don't know. I'm not going to go that far. I think it's if people want to try like brewing up some missions, it's a proud tradition in fantasy and 40K until very recently. I'm not sure. I guess AOS, since the General's Handbook, has been pretty like by the book. But like, going to tournaments until Warhammer 9th, the 40K 9th edition was pretty much homebrewed or like community built missions like through and through. So I'm not poo-pooing that at all. And in fact, ours are homebrew missions to an extent, but they still focus entirely on kill points. And so I want to just shout out some of the like minor changes we've made. One is I think the book has a bunch of missions that kind of are only cool for their different deployments. So we've actually taken 3 of those and simply made them open battle. So basically 3 of the 5 missions are open battle with just different deployment maps, which is something I wanted to try. So it gives it a little bit of a different feel without adding, a lot of extra stuff. And then the 4th mission is actually Mountain Pass, which is in fact open battle with a little bit of extra. And then we also have the whatever the watchtower is called these days. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the objective
Command
one in the middle. Command and Control. And I'm using Andrew's tweaks to that, which is Command and Control is a hill in the middle. That's also an arcane ruin. So it gives you some benefits, makes it a little bit fun. So again, it's the meta of it is still going to be, kill points is the main driver. We're also doing a couple minor tweaks to how scoring is done. And again, I tried to keep this as close to the vibe of the book as possible. So one of them is if you kill a monster down to 25%. Sorry. Well, yeah, more than 25% of its wounds. So like you have it down onto 1 or 2 wounds. Just like if you've done that to a regular unit, you're going to get 25% of the points for it. I may have mangled it, but it's basically you're giving monsters the same thing, that you get the same points for killing most of a monster as you would for killing most of a unit.
I think that's good.
And I think previously we talked about that, and it doesn't work that way in the real rulebook because a monster's unit strength is always its starting unit strength. So you can't actually get partial points for them as the rules are written. And then the other thing we did was we added a Monster Slayer bonus. So that's if you kill a toughness 6 or higher monster, you get a 50-point bonus. So like capturing a banner, which I think gives just a little something extra. And then we also made it so that if you kill the Green Knight once, but he comes back, you get 25% of his points, which is 69. Yeah.
Nice.
So just a few minor things. I think that just sort of maybe take the edge off of a couple of feel bads, give the opportunity to score some points that otherwise you wouldn't, even if in the game you've worked really hard to get those points. I don't think it's going to have a massive impact on things, but I think it just sort of feels better. That's mostly why I wanted to do that without getting too crazy. Rob is always my voice of reason, and so he sort of moderated some of my instincts on what to do. And so we wound up doing those things.
I think we know that in the future there'll be some sort of like points for scoring objectives and stuff like that as time goes on, which is a much rumored document that we've been talking about for a while, with like all the changes that we're going to see coming, like a cap on wizards and a cap on number like character points and stuff. But again, these are all kind of insert rumors, but they're pretty reliable, like information. But I think sticking to like the reason it can seem like there are 10 high elves, there's like a cyclical nature to this. the reason you're like, there's 10 high elves, and like, why isn't there like more Bretonians, etc., is I'm sure there are definitely, especially if you're like a TTS warhorse / grinder, and that's all you do all day is play 3 games of Old World. Yeah, I'm sure that there's a best in slot or best in faction kind of like cycle and list. But ultimately, in the real world, building them, putting them together, because you're talking about building an army, putting it on the tabletop, can be like, if you're gunning for it, it's like a 3-month project. Probably more realistically, it's like 3 to 9 months. And in 9 months' time, the game could be very different to where it is now. You know, like look at what we've just said about, you know, the meta representation compared to like the 9 months previous at the start, like Bretonians, Two Kings, super popular. So, you know, I think like the changes to the game state doesn't need to occur very drastically at the moment. Maybe missions a bit, because the armies actually, the way you win in Old World is so ultra focused on what you do versus what your opponent does, and that's the beauty. The balance of the win is inherently about understanding, like in chess, you win the chess game. In Old World, you create the chessboard and then win. And I think that's like I'd like to see. I don't want to see too many changes to the scoring. I don't think in the long term. I think that's my TLDR. But I'm excited to see what the games are like this weekend with those little modifications, little tweaks versus big overhauls.
I think honestly, like depending on where you are, like if you have a nascent group, like if you know you're starting out and you're getting people on their feet and people are playing, then sticking closer to the book is better. I think 100%. And I think most places are going to be like that. But as Rob just identified, there's going to be some places where folks have played the hell out of the missions that are in the book, or, you know, which winds up being in most cases just open battle, mountain pass, and the control the objective. Frankly, a lot of people aren't going to play the other missions because they're pretty whack. So, you know, if you're finding that your players are getting bored and you're the leader, then I don't think there's anything wrong with branching out. But if your players aren't bored and new people are still coming on, then there's no reason to, I think, mix it up too much. Because to me, I think the game is like a kill points game in itself is like what Rob was just saying, is quite dynamic and a fun push-pull as it is. And it really puts a lot of stress on that matchup on the table of those two armies, of how are they going to kill each other or how are they going to stay alive? And that becomes the game. Especially when you're doing also on top of all of this, a differential scoring system, so that it's about, you know, like sometimes just playing defense can be, you know, can be very effective in getting a win. So that is all to say, because I feel like a lot of the folks who are coming out to this are probably more in the, you know, what do they have? You know, what are they excited to play camp? I think keeping it closer to, you know, a simplified mission system, I think is good. But that's not to say that something else wouldn't also work.
A little bit of a call to action for people who are watching this on YouTube, listen to the podcast. Like, can you let me know in the comments below what sort of stuff you'd like to see from the event? Obviously, with a link to the list document, you'll be able to see what lists are being played. And I'm sure I'll try and interview the winner or do some of that kind of stuff. But you know, what is it people want to see from events, and what sort of like, you know, information you need to bring in out from the event? I think will be really interesting. You know, people's experiences. I know there's lots of people now setting up, you know, a bunch of videos about like, oh, I took this army to an event, or I took this army, and I think that's really good. It's really healthy for the community, so people can start to understand what it's like playing with those armies, you know, pretty consistently. Which is really good. But I'd love to know what people want to see from something like this. So let us know in the comments below so we can do that. And then I think we're clear to wrap it up, unless you want to do any shout outs before we go about the event. It's very exciting, and you'll be able to follow along at home. We're not going to be streaming it because, again, I still think it's a little early days for that, for some of the players, for the players. More importantly than anything else.
For the players, and also, Rob, I'd like you to have a good time. Streaming is very, very difficult, and even me living a few blocks from the venue, you know, would be stressful to get everything set up. So yeah, in the future, I'm sure we'll bring some more live streaming elements to it. But for now, that's a cool thing not to. One thing I would love to pivot to just for a hot minute is the SBot 2, which for some reason I've decided to kick off at the exact same time as running.
That's pretty insane.
A big event. So. At the confluence of one weekend, we're going to go from one of the largest in-person events in the world to what is currently shaping up to be the largest ever in either format event in the form of SBot 2. as it stands right now, let me just try and get a count. We were over 110, and we are up to 117 signups for SBot 2.
Wow.
Which again, I'll also include this one in the notes as well. But if you want to join us, that first game is going to be on next Monday, which will be Monday the 21st of October. I'm probably going to be pretty easy on people trying to rush in. So again, if you're a patron, if you're a paying member of our Patreon and you're in the Discord, you can qualify. You get to play if you want to. We're going to have our list deadline set for probably Saturday. But again, if there are stragglers going all the way into next week, even if you just want to join super late, I'm not going to be upset about it. You know, we can squeeze you in. It's about getting games in. It's about learning to play the game. Last time was excellent for that for a lot of people. Really does help unite the Discord community together. Yeah, it's a fantastic thing. So again, that kicks off on Monday, October 21st. We're recording on Wednesday, October 16th. I'll have the link to the sign up sheet. That's all you got to do is sign up on the sheet. Sexy Hugo is currently creating the various groups. Just very quickly, the way we're running it this year is there'll be 8 groups based on time zones. So that way you're paired against people who are local to you or closer to you. I tried to make it so that there's no group that's more separated by more than 3 hours. So that should make pairings fairly easy for getting games. It's 1 game a week, and we play in those original groups for 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, all the undefeated players will get placed into a top 16. So that'll be an international pod. So this is going to be a bit of an
whoa.
That this will be a bit of an experiment because then we're going to have a lot of conflicting time zones, and we'll see how well people can get games. I'm very curious. And then everyone outside those top 16 will be loaded into regionals. So like essentially you'll have a UK, a Eastern North America, Western North America, an Oceania. So those regional groups will again find it a little easier to get games. It's only going to be the top tier players who are going to have to find ways to pretzel their lives so that they can get their final games in, and then we'll give awards to all those groups. So that's what we're doing, and it looks really exciting. It wraps up by the first week of December, just in time for Christmas craziness. Yeah, should be a lot of fun, and that's going to be interesting too to see how that particular meta shapes up. Because again, you can pick whatever you want because it's virtual. Obviously, we play it on Warhol, and Warhol also rushed out a bunch of improvements in time for this, including skirmishers are now work properly, which is great. And Hugo's always looking for feedback on how to improve the platform. And he's also provided a discount code for our patrons if you wanted to do the premium version of it, which you don't have to do. That's the whole spiel.
That's good spiel. Yeah, like, I am always interested in what the online grinders are able to like produce and do. Versus like, you know, the in-world grinders, because obviously all the time that you spent building and painting, these people can spend just playing the game. And there definitely does emerge, I would say sometimes, some pretty prodigious skill sets coming out of TTS. Good example would be the Age of Sigmar Australian team that played this year at Worlds, ended up getting 4th place at Worlds.
Right.
But wasn't the winning team was the Danes, and the Danes are basically the same 7 people from their own gaming club, and then an 8th person from somewhere else in Denmark. But the Australians in 4th, so they practice together all the time, is my point. But the Australians in 4th were disparate from all around the world, with one guy being in Japan, another guy being in Western Australia, so obviously, you know, and Eastern Australia, those are very separate places. Another guy from the US, a guy from Hungary, because you allowed mercenaries. So, you know, they eventually were able to, you know, get on the tabletop, and, you know, they did pretty well. Ultimately, the top 3 placings were teams who did a lot of in-person practice. But I think like you've got some really valid skill sets you can learn and adopt online. Warhol's a really good example of a place to do that, right? And it is also really interesting because those people, like, you know, they don't have to think that they're not chained. They're not chained by having to produce those models. They can build anything they like, which is fun.
But what's also fun is that when we saw this, what we saw in the original Square-based online tournament was that didn't matter. We actually saw a more even spread than what we're seeing in this IRL tournament. But it wasn't like all Bretonians versus Tomb Kings, you know, and Vampire counts in the original SBot. I'll be curious to see how things change now. Are we going to see a meta that shifts more towards the sweatiest possible lists? Because people are still finding what they think is good, and I think, as Hugo said in my interview with him on this channel, when he was creating the platform, it's not meant to replace the real life tabletop. It's meant to supplement it. It's a good place for learning how to play, because this game is hard. It's super hard. And it's a good place for trying stuff that you're building or working on in real life. And so yeah, by no means is this meant to replace things, but for some of us, it's a great way to be able to play regularly. It's a great way to meet new people. I made so many friends locally through this. I think it's a good way of connecting people, just like we were talking about at the beginning with the WhatsApp group. This is a way of connecting people all over the world, who might be neighbors and not realize it, right? So I think that's what it is. It's not, by no means meant to replace the glory of on-table action, but really is a cool way to, again, if your local scene isn't growing right yet or hasn't popped off, or if you just don't have a lot of flexibility in your time, maybe you can only play after the kids are in bed, whatever. It's a really, really great way to get a taste for the game, and it does feel like Warhammer. So, and by the way, I understand completely all the people who are like, no, man, why would I do that? That's a waste of life. I get that too, because to a lot of people, Warhammer is about the tactile rolling of dice, the miniatures you have on the table, and that's the number one. And if number one didn't exist, well, why don't you just play a different game? I get those folks. I still think there's a lot of value in participating in something like this. And yeah, actually, the games themselves, I want to say too, are fascinating because they're all played on our Discord channel, and so you have to stream your games, and so that attracts people in to observe the game, which means that some people have said that this is a negative, but I think it's been nothing but a positive. It means that there's always someone there to ask a question from. There's always someone there, who can help players who are in a weird situation. It keeps people very civil. It's very communal. The games that I saw being played, and I think that's really, really awesome. And I hope that vibe continues in the sense that there's a really good collegial spirit present when people are playing games in the Squarebase Online tournament. So if you have not signed up, check the description. There's a link there. Again, if it's after the 21st, I'm going to do everything I can to get people still in that first week. Maybe you won't qualify the top 16, but you'll still get games in and meet people and have a good time.
You should go and tune in. And I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. I know it's been, just a ramble about something coming up, but hopefully it gives you some interesting thoughts about what the future looks like for, some content that you're going to see from the channel, but also from stuff that we're doing. Because as much as, yes, we make a bunch of YouTube videos for you people to watch out there, me and Val, really do live by what we believe, which is that events to me are Warhammer. I know Val probably mirrors his thoughts. That's what it is to me. I know 90% of it is actually reading about it, talking about it online and painting your models, but it's all the payoff for that 10%. And so living up to that, it's great to see you doing it. And I'm really excited to come over and meet the community as well, because it's just more people who love the thing I love, which is cool.
Get out to an event and make 5 friends.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, make 4 friends, straight up. So people who are afraid of events, please don't be. Get out to them. It's a great way to meet folks who are into the kind of things you're into, and look at cool models and do all that kind of stuff. That's why we love it. We don't love it because we love smashing people's faces in with crazy OP lists and stuff, which is the rep sometimes they get online. That's a bunch of nonsense. What you're going to get is a room full of people who really, really love the thing that you like. Go to events, start events, do events. They're great. Everyone else who doesn't believe in that, find another way to do all the good things that events do.
Yeah, we should come up with that phrase. Do events, do crime. Something like that. Be events, do crime. Is that right?
That's exactly it. A rising ship lifts boats.
Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon. Goodbye.